Local shop installing more security measures after sixth burglary attempt this year. 6 burglaries, not including what's going on in September so far. Yeah, it's averaging just about one a month. Not good, not good. This is the International District of Seattle. Some call it Chinatown. And right now it's super controversial because the county is looking to slam through hundreds of units of housing for the homeless. That's what they've got going on. So there's a lot of protests and things going on in this area. County says, well, we need the space. Business owners are saying, yeah, no, been broken into 6 times. How much more can we take? Let's jump on into this. Let's see what the dealio is. So Seattle businesses see an uptick in break-ins. It feels like it's been consistent. And a lot of this stuff, it happens at night, but these criminals are getting so brazen. I would not want to own a business in Seattle. Just flat out no go for me. I was walking around a park here in Bellevue, which is, not that many miles away from Seattle, but a world apart. And I was looking at, people doing repairs and kind of things. You've got trucks and stuff in the area, and how that's such a different game than if you have a business in Seattle and you're running something in and out of a truck up to an apartment or whatever. You can't really leave your rig, unattended. You've got to have somebody else to look after it because your stuff is going to get jacked. That's just where we're at in a city like Seattle. There's a lot of crime out there. Popular game shop in the Chinatown-International District has experienced a rash of break-ins in the past year. The owner of Pink Gorilla says that the business has been targeted around 6 times in 2022 at the shop off of South King Street. All right, South King Street, it's right in the heart of a lot of stories that I read. It's just a lot of activity going on. This is it's an old area of Seattle. It's been there forever. I don't know how long, Seattle had the whole downtown got burned down and then we built on top of that. And now we've got all the waterfront stuff going on. Skid Row literally originated in downtown Seattle because the logs skidding down into the water. That tells you something. And that's literally where Skid Row came from, right? So we've been targeted 6 times in 2022. Because of that, this business owner, he's going to take even more measures to make sure the business is secure. People say, well, then why doesn't he just move his business? Well, he kind of runs his numbers. He knows his numbers. And even with 6 break-ins, he's got enough of a margin at this business location that he's willing to take the risk. Where I kind of back off from that is if one of my employees or myself as the business owner, if my life is in danger, there's no amount of business that's going to make that worthwhile, right? That's just where I'm at. But if you've got bills, if you got a kid in college, you got little kids going to a private school, who knows what you've got going on? You got an ex-wife, you got an ex-husband, let's be fair. You may not have the option of, I'm going to close down my business and open it up somewhere else. Because, we had the pandemic and all these stores were closed down, although, Costco and all the big ones were miraculously left open. Funny how that worked. But, these businesses have struggled. They got shut down for a long time. Coming back, now they're facing a bunch of crime. Tough go for these businesses. In this latest case, Cody Spencer says that the thief tried to break into the business Tuesday, but was unsuccessful. So he came back early Wednesday to finish the job, to get his goods. Security video showed him heaving a huge rock or chunk of concrete into the interior door of the business. What has become so sad in cities that have allowed this to just kind of get out of control, and cities that defunded their police? Yeah, how's that working out? And cities that don't have a tough stance on crime, where they just, basically, we've decriminalized so many different things. It's a misdemeanor. Or when somebody does get arrested and, prosecuted for a crime, they get virtually no sentence. In areas where you've got this stuff going on, this is the end result. Businesses suffer, and businesses can only suffer for so long before they say, you know what? I can no longer do business here. But the International District is one of those places where you got a ton of small businesses, and you've got a ton of businesses that are specific to the Asian community. There's been a lot of issue with hate crime in the area. So it's just kind of that part of Seattle that's really had a tough go. And right now you've got so many just crazy homeless, drugged out people, drug dealers, that, it is not unlike the Blade in Seattle. You got two hot spots in Seattle. You got the Blade in downtown at 3rd between Pike and Pine. And then you've got basically South Jackson at 12th Avenue South, International District. That is also an enormous hotbed for illegal activity and all that kind of brings with it, right? So this is a pretty large chunk of concrete. It looks like a piece of a curb to throw through our front window, said Spencer. I watched the video on this. Spencer was remarkably calm for having a large chunk of concrete go through his window. He was almost nonchalant. And some would say, well, that's the problem with Seattle, is people aren't taking it seriously. They're not demanding that something be done. A lot of these people are, but nobody's listening. And you don't have enough cops. And we're going to get to that specifics. We're going to get to specifics on this case of what does that look like. We keep saying there's not enough cops. All right. This guy has dealt with this before. Man, 6 break-ins. I mean, what can you point to that's going to turn this around? I don't know. So some of these business owners, again, I'm like, they are literally between a rock and a hard piece, or a large piece of curb and a hard place, right? So the thief fled with a tub of lower value video games, leaving thousands of dollars worth of broken glass and damaged tile behind, but also left behind a bunch of other stuff that was probably worth far more money, right? The guy broke in yesterday, or attempted to. Didn't get very far, explained Spencer. Tried to leave with some items, but he was caught by the police, so he dropped all the items. I mean, as you do. Police are chasing me. Oh, I'm going to jettison this stuff. Spencer resisted putting up bars on the windows of the business, but now he says they have to go up. He spent the day securing the glass doors. So he's had 6 break-ins, and he's just now putting up bars. That whole bar thing, it just looks like it's a mini prison, right? You want to be inside of a small commercial space, looking out through your bars at the windows to the homeless people outside doing who knows what in the sidewalk? I mean, no, not really. You don't want to have that in your business, but then you also don't want your business to be broken into, right? He spent the day securing the glass doors. So far, the city's crime data dashboard shows that the Seattle police have reported more than 5,900 burglaries citywide in 2022. In the International District, where this is, there have been more than 369 larceny and theft offenses and 117 burglaries reported so far this year. It's a small geographic area. And that's why the residents and business owners of this area are so concerned that you're going to have several hundred more units of housing enacted. They call it the megaplex, I think, of homeless housing. I mean, it's just this enormous development that's going to go in the International District. And clearly, they're already suffering. You got 6 break-ins. I mean, yeah, let's just throw a few hundred more homeless rooms in there and it'll all be good. What could possibly go wrong here? Now, that's the county reacting to all these, this stuff going on. And they know they've got thousands of people on the streets that they've allowed to congregate in a city like Seattle, because our policies towards the homeless are so encouraging that, we call it free-addle for that segment of the population. So the county's looking around going, God, what do we do with all these people? Well, we've already got a small plex there. Let's make it a megaplex. And that's why the residents are literally going out and protesting. That's been happening I think it happened 2 weekends ago. They had like 300 people protest because they don't want more units of this going on, because they know the end result is the crime stats that we just talked about. Because those folks, they're not required to not be on drugs. And even when they are supposedly sober, you've got all these break-ins going on. So you tell me what's going on. Many businesses have been targeted more than once in this area. The Pink Gorilla shop alone has been broken into 6 times, including during a burglary that we reported on in July. That was another. There are so many of these little incidences that kind of go towards it's the micro of the macro, I reported as. Just talked in my last podcast I just recorded. Another restaurant in Portland is shutting down. It's very close. I think it's 6 or 7 lots away, not blocks, but lots away from the Cracker Barrel that we talked about in Portland, Hayden Island, Jansen Beach area. Restaurants businesses can only take so many incidences of crime, break-ins, having to deal with safety issues with the homeless or people breaking in, whatever it is. You can only tolerate that for so long, and then you got to do something. And in the case of most businesses, it is shutting down. This guy doesn't sound like he's shutting down. He sounds like he's very resilient. I would say that is a classic Seattle move. But, a lot of cities are like this. They're just like, yeah, but we've still got enough of a margin to make this go. Yeah. Until somebody really gets hurt or somebody's life gets ended. And that's not worth doing business to me. But yeah, we got broken into 6 times this year. In our 17 years in business, there were 0 before that. 17 years in business, 0. Basically, since the pandemic, been broken into just multiple times. So you've got an epidemic of this going on. And city officials, you know what they're doing? They're going, oh, yeah, that's not good. Oof, yeah. Wish we had some more police. That would be really good. Seattle's mayor is going to put a bunch of money into homelessness, put a bunch of money into more policing. That's his proposed budget. We've gone from defunding the police by 50% to, you know what? Even that stuff with, diverting a little bit of money into the social programs, that's not really going to cut it. We need actual cops on the streets. This owner said he saw an alarm system would have been installed in the building. So at least in this case, police got there quickly and recovered some items. He says his landlord is considering more security measures, such as hiring private security, in addition to the steps he's personally taking to secure his business. Okay, but that's just to secure it from more break-ins down the road. So, you're doing the Band-Aid approach over and over and over. Here's what he says about his neighborhood. It's a really awesome neighborhood. It's got lots of great people and great businesses, said Spencer. My thought to that is, yeah, but they're getting broken into and these people are in danger. So you got to weigh that with where are things headed in this direction. The cop that worked with me said that he was the only guy for one neighborhood. I think he said like 16 city blocks. So it needs some more love and to be looked after. Okay. Got one cop working 16 city blocks. So what if another place gets broken into on the same day? You got one guy. He can't be in 2 places at once, right? And that multiplied by many, many, many times over is literally what you've got going on throughout a city like Seattle that doesn't have enough cops. Now, I'd be curious to know if Spencer was on the defund the police, bandwagon. Was he? Did he have a Black Lives Matter window in the sign in the window? Was he behind? Did he have a defund the police sign in the window as well? Because a lot of those people did because they didn't want their places to get broken into, not because they supported the effort, but because literally they felt like if they had that in the window, that didn't seem to stop Antifa or Black Lives Matter from destroying a lot of these businesses. Did it? No, it didn't. They just go after anything because they don't care. They really don't give a rip. Fox 13 News reached out to Seattle Police Department for information on the burglary at Pink Gorilla. A spokesperson said Seattle Police Department hasn't arrested the man involved yet, and they don't have any suspect information. He says police haven't yet confirmed whether the 2 cases on Tuesday and Wednesday are related or involve the same suspect. Detective says that they did question a man they found outside the business after they arrived early Monday morning for the break-in, but they said he was having a mental health crisis and it was unrelated to the case. You just had a crazy guy. Just another day. Like, don't worry about it. That guy's just, he's mentally unstable and he's having a crisis. And how many times do we hear that in these cities that have gone down these roads of soft on crime stances, defunded the police, don't have enough cops, legalizing drugs. You go down all these list of things and you're like, all right, that's how we got here. That is literally how you got there. And you know what? A perfect example of that is we don't have this kind of nonsense going on in Bellevue, where I live and where I work and where I commute over to Seattle multiple times a week, because there's still stuff over in Seattle that I really enjoy. Not necessarily in the International District, but I've eaten there recently. And during the day, yeah, it's okay. At night, not so much. Would I want to have a business there? Absolutely not. No, siree. I don't want my kids to live there. And yet both my kids do. One lives in a really good neighborhood. The other lives in Queen Anne, which it's got a fair amount of crime. And I'd rather he didn't live there. But, it's one of those, well, my girlfriend wants to live here. So therefore, that's where we're going to go. I go, okay, good luck with that. Yeah. As a parent, you just want to say, if you know what you're getting into, this might not be the greatest of concepts, but a lot of people live in Queen Anne. It's a great neighborhood, but it's got some elevated crime levels as well. So not all of Seattle is walking zombies. That's been cleaned up to a great extent, but the crime is still going on. And it varies from neighborhood to neighborhood. I was over in Ballard not long ago, and that's a community just to the north of downtown Seattle. Seattle, like a lot of towns, is very, very location specific. And that's why in appraising over the years, you had to identify what community you're in, because you cross a boundary in Seattle, you can have property values go up, $1 million, $500,000 from one house to the next, depending on what location they're in. If one's got a view, it might be $1 million more than one without, $500,000, $250,000, whatever it is, depending on the community. You can have that happen. So you got to know your location. And Seattle is so broken up geographically. We've got huge lakes. We've got, big freeway systems and Puget Sound, the mountains. We're geographically super constrained. So in this little neighborhood here, Chinatown, you got a lot of stuff going on, and it's a small community. And, there was a protest recently where the residents and the shop owners in this area basically said, you guys are putting homeless in here, and it's because, we're a minority community, and you just think that you can just ram this down our throats. And the business owners and the residents, basically, who a lot didn't speak English, they came right out and said, hey, you're being racist by doing this to us. I don't think they're doing it just to them. They're doing it to communities all over. We've just got here in Bellevue, we've got a homeless, some kind of shelter-ish, not even a shelter. It's more permanent housing. They turned a hotel into housing. So we're getting some of that here on East Bellevue. It'll never happen in downtown Bellevue because the powers that be, they don't let that kind of thing happen in that part of Bellevue. So you got a lot of just, stuff going on. All right. So how many more break-ins does this guy have to take before he's like, shut my business down. This is not worth it. I don't know. 6 in a year? That seems excessive. That's what we're doing here in Seattle. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thank you so much for being here. We'll catch up in the next one. Bye for now.